session. Today is another special one. Whenever I say special, it's one of three things. Either we're doing something completely new, a new feature in Excel or in the data analysis space, or we are doing something that is different from the usual. And today's will fall, in that category of we are doing something SQL. And as you've probably already been told over numerous sessions, that SQL is one of those tools that you must have regardless of the aspect of data analysis you want to play in. Maybe you want to play in the data science, the BI, data, the normal business data analysis. Even for BA, business analyst, I'm beginning to see they ask them to have skills in SQL. And if you want to do data engineering, you will also require it. So we are happy today that you are going to get a very good hands-on session on SQL, and our special guest is Ifeoluwa Olagbaju. And I'm going to quickly just touch on about who our sponsors are. So this session is brought to you by your BizEdge and MHS Analytics. Your BizEdge is a Microsoft Excel, data analysis, financial modeling, and BI consulting and training company. So if you require any trainings on BI, data analysis, financial modeling, we are your one-stop shop for that. And we try to be different in terms of we always try to stay with you till you get the skills. So we don't just train you and say bye bye. We give you after training support, tasks, and continuous learning processes we have in place. MHS Analytics is essentially the same company but based out of Canada. And if you are probably outside of Nigeria or you are in North America, that might be more convenient entity to engage us via. Okay, so now to the main aspect of today's session, and our special speaker is Ifeoluwa. He is a data analyst with over 6 years experience in data analysis, product management, application support. So my team member, oh, I forgot to edit this part. My team member who put this together, I was able to get more from going online. So I felt maybe Ifeoluwa gave him this, but I know he also writes on Medium. He has a GitHub. I'm going to share his LinkedIn account. So just know that there's more to him than what we put here. I just felt maybe this was what he sanctioned, us to put up. So I was careful not to edit what my colleague has put up. So I'm going to share his LinkedIn, but right now I'm going to immediately hand over the session to him so that he has all the time he needs to take us on this session. If you have questions, feel free to put in the chat box. Okay, so Ifeoluwa, please over to you, sir. I'm going to stop sharing my screen too.
All right. All right. Thank you, Michael, for the introduction.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you to your BizEdge for this opportunity to take this session. So I'll just share my screen so we can work on with today's session. Okay, so just a bit of introduction. I'm sure you'll be wondering if somebody gets to teach SQL with PowerPoint stuff. Of course I'm not. So so that's just a bit about myself. But yeah, of course, today's not about me. So let's go to what we have for today. So basically, we'll be looking at SQL, like Michael has mentioned, and we'll try to take as many questions as possible. So what I've done here is to kind of section, categorize like different things you can do with SQL, and where you probably would be if you are good with, for example, your select statement, you're using conditions and all of that, then you're well on your way to intermediate. And if you know how to use your joins very well, I'm sure you probably would have been hearing some of these words that I'm using, aliasing, casting, inserting, updating, then you're well on your way to being an expert. And then, of course, at the expert level, we are talking about sub queries, Windows function, and some complex stuff. We'll take it one step at a time. We are not going to rush ourselves. So, there's no way you teach SQL with PowerPoint anyway. So the best thing is to go straight to the practical session. So this is the management studio. Of course, the setup for this can be a bit tricky. So what I've done is to put up an article, and I mean, it takes time really. So what I've done is to take and put up an article to kind of help us. So we kind of, save some time instead of having to waste time during this session to for setting up. So you can go, the link will be dropped in the chat, I suppose. So you can go through that in terms of how to set up the SQL server. But once you've done the setup and you're good with that, you have this environment, which is the management studio. Now, of course, again, let me try to introduce, there are different database. There is a whole lot. I'm sure you probably would have heard of Oracle, Postgre, MySQL, and the like. So SQL Server is also like one of such, where you can manage your database. And when it now comes to SQL, the full meaning is structured query language. It's basically the way you communicate with the database, is the language the database understands. And the good thing about it is that it is kind of almost standard. So if you understand SQL using SQL Server, you can almost transfer it to any other platform. Maybe it's MySQL or Postgre or whatever. So this is like a local installation that you have on your system. So it's also good that you can get some practice with this. And even when you talk about data warehousing, snowflakes and the likes, you still come about to use SQL. So which is one of the reasons why it makes it very important as a data analyst. So I'll just try to explain what this is about. So once you log in, it will bring up this page. So you have databases, under which if you expand it, you see the list of databases that you have in this SQL Server. We'll be using this Northwind database for today's practice. And the reason why I chose this is because it's not so big. It is easy to understand. So that's what we'll be using for today's practice. Now, if I expand the database, you would see we have tables, which is what we'll be focusing on mostly for today. Now, if I go ahead and expand the tables, you'll see all the tables I have within the Northwind database. Now, I know a lot of us are probably very used to Excel, so I'll try to, as much as possible, use Excel to explain this so that it becomes a lot more clearer to us. So you can see this database as a workbook, what you have in Excel, right? So in a workbook, you can have multiple sheets. So you can see the tables as different sheets in Excel. Okay, so this is categories. Now you see information that are related would be together in a table. So for example, if I open the content of these categories, you'll see the information about categories. If I open, for example, the content of customers, you'll see the content of customers. Now, of course, you'll notice that there's dbo.customers, dbo.employee. Now, the dbo is the schema. Now, the DBO part won't go too deep into that, but you can have different DBOs apart from different schema names apart from DBO. The DBO is like some kind of defaults that the database assigns to each table. Now, because there's also the path of data governance, security, and all of that in SQL Server. So what the schema helps you to do is to be able to section who have access to what. So in that way, you can say, I want only this department to have access to customers and employees. So you do that at the schema level. But that's not really where we are going to start from. I just wanted to know, because by the time we are writing the queries, the schema would kind of come in a way. So I'll just explain. That's why I'm explaining this part a bit. Now, in each table, if I go ahead and expand this, you'll see we have column, keys, constraints, and all of that. Won't make it complex. We'll just go to columns, which is what we are really interested in for today. Now, in the columns, these are the columns in customers table. So if you want to, liken that to Excel again, it's like each column where you have A. So instead of A, you have a customer ID, such that everything in column A, which is customer ID in this case, is the ID of the customers. Okay, we'll still see the content, so it will make more sense. Okay, so let me just probably just open one so you see what I mean. So this is a sample how it looks like, and you can see this is really much like your Excel sheets. So the data are arranged in columns and in rows, right? And this is also what we call structured data. So when we talk about SQL, we are basically talking about structured data, not anything outside of that. So it means the data are arranged in rows and columns. So in each row, we have what we call the attributes. So customer ID is an attribute, and company name is an attribute. So under company name column, you would expect to see only company name. Of course, we know we can have dirty data, so and that is really a discussion for another session. So ideally, if I check under company name, what I would expect to see is the name of the company. Okay, so how do we now kind of relate with the data we have in the database? That's what we want to look at today. So I'll go ahead and close this again, and we'll start with the simplest of when it comes to SQL, the select statement. Now, if I want to see the information in table customers, okay, how do I do that? Of course, you start with the select keyword. Now you see immediately I wrote that it became the color changed. Okay, I hope you cannot see my screen very well. So, and what I will now have to do is, okay, yeah, thank you. So what I have to do now is select where I want the table where I want to select from. Remember, we have several tables, okay? We have all the tables listed here. So I want to specify the name of the table where I want to select from. So basically it will follow with the column names, but because I want to select everything at once, it will take me more time if I have to type the name of the column one after the other. So I can represent that with a star and say from customers this way. So if you look at this statement very well, it has like two major parts. The select statement, which is constant, the columns I'm selecting, which I've represented with, I'm representing with star because I'm selecting all the columns at once. Then from, which is a keyword, then followed by the name of the table that I'm selecting the record from. So to run this, I'll just click execute, right? Now, there is also one thing you need to take note of. Now, we are running this query on this database, not Wind. So at any point in time, that name of the database should be appearing here, right? If you select, for example, a different database and you run this and there's no customer table in that table, in that database, you get an error. So you have to be mindful of that. And so let me just click execute so you can see the same record I pulled earlier, but this is just a simple select statement. Now, you don't want to be using star all the time, because imagine a table that has, now this table is not really that long, but you can have table that runs into thousands of columns, okay? And if I have to be selecting everything, so it's going to be impacting on performance at some point, okay? So if you know the columns you want to really select, then it's better you specify those columns name instead of using star. So that way, let's say I want to select only customer ID, and I want to select contact name in that order, maybe company name, city, postal code. Now, SQL Server will kind of make suggestion to what you're trying to do. So now what I've done, instead of the star, I've specified the name of the columns now. So customer ID, contact name, company. So I have in about 5 columns that I've selected now. So you can see the difference between using star and using the column names. So this would select only the columns that I've specified. And because this is the columns I need, so it's always better you specify that expressly instead of using your star every time. You can run into serious issues in terms of performance if you have to be doing that all the time. Okay, and in some cases, let's say we have, if you look also from the results table here, directly under it to show you your query is successful and some other informations here, the table, the database you are running this on. Then you can see the total number of records. In this case, we have 91 rows. Okay. Now imagine if you have thousands of, imagine if you have thousands of rows and you just want to have an idea of what your data looks like. Something like, if you are familiar with Python, if you use ed, something like that. So it gives you like a first 5 rows, something. So how do you do that in SQL? You use the top. So let me just put this in capital. Top 5. So in addition to the column names that I've specified, I added top 5 in front. So this will select only the first 5 records. So you see we have 5 records now. Now this also is very useful when you want to select, maybe you want to select top 5 or bottom 5. Now there's nothing like bottom 5. All you have is top 5. But if you want to select the bottom 5, there's a way you can do that. So we'll probably get to that as we go on. And okay, just so I mentioned, if you have any question, drop it in the chat. I don't know if we have any yet, but you can go ahead and drop them. We'll take it as we go along with this class.
Yeah, thanks. So just to mention to that, I also mentioned the same. I've shared the link of how to install the SQL Server, your Medium link. I think is more explanatory and very well illustrated. And I've also shared your LinkedIn on the chat. So I'm also monitoring. If anything, once the questions pile off at a point, I might notify. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. All right. One thing again we can probably do is, okay, so let's say, for example, now we want to select just the city from this table. City from customers, okay? If I execute this, you can see I have the names of all the cities. Now, you'll notice that we probably have some cities that are repeating because the city you'd see now would be per record that we have in the database. But assuming I just want to know the city that exists in this table, customers, I can introduce what we call the distinct. So you can see how I'm introducing different additional things to what we started from. So, and that's how we'll be building on that. So distinct city would give me only the distinct city I have in the database. So that is one of each. So that means I have in total 69 cities. So you can see the cities listed up here, and I can see, I know it's 69 because I was looking at this place, so it's not like I have the answer before now. So you can see that's how the distinct works, and you can almost introduce that to anything. I can include additional columns to this. So let's say customer, but this time it will be giving me the distinct of the 2 columns. What do I mean by that? So let me execute this. So you can see I now have 91 rows, which was the total we had before. So it means that we don't have 2 customers. We don't have 2 customers with the same city, if that makes sense. So assuming we have maybe Ocean as a customer ID appearing twice with the same city appearing twice, then one of it will appear. So you'd see that your number will not be up to the total number of records we are currently seeing, 91. So it means we have unique customer ID, which is a good thing, really. And that takes me to explain the relationship between database. Now, the fact that we are seeing different tables here, there's actually the relationship between them. So, and as a data analyst, let me just quickly bring up this chart would help us to understand what I'm trying to explain now. So as a data analyst, you know, the database would really be existing. You are just coming to maybe do an analysis or something like that. So there is a structure that the database has already. And before you can start working with database, you must understand that structure. And that is what this diagram, I mean, maybe the database administrator or somebody would have come up with this. So once you have this, you can see at a glance the structure of that database. Now, this is for the Northwind database we are looking at currently. So you can see we have on top of each box, we have the name of the tables. So this is the same name we have in the database, right? And inside, you can see the names of the columns, okay? And that way, you can see the relationship between the different tables that we have in. So despite the fact that they are standing alone, there's a relationship between them. So you can almost see the relationship between shippers table and orders having relationship between with customer and other details. Now, how does this make any sense? You'd notice that let me go back to the database, then I'll come back to this to explain something. So let me select all again from customers. So you can see we have customer ID. And okay, maybe let me use the employees territories. Yeah, this is a good one. So you can see in employee territories, we have employee ID, which is 1, 2, and all of that. And we have the territory ID. Now, if I ask you, what is employee ID 1? I mean, who is employee ID 1? You probably won't make any sense. You won't be able to, guess that. But because if I run, let me now select all from employees. So I'll just highlight this so that I'm not running the two together. So you can highlight, so it's going to run only employees. So now you see the employees table, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of that. So we can see from here that employee ID 1 is Dovilio Nancy. Now, if I go back here and I run this query and I ask, okay, who is employee ID 1? Now we've seen the other table, so we can easily tell. So, and that is the beauty of relational database. And that's also what this data diagram is trying to explain. So like what we checked now, this is the employee ID. So there's a relationship between employee ID and employee territories. Now, another good thing is sometimes you might need information from shippers table and other details. Now you'd see that there's no direct relationship between shippers and other details, right? But because shippers has a relationship with others table, and others table now has a relationship with other details, okay? So you can almost like leverage on that relationship. It's almost like I want information from maybe anybody on this call, and I don't know them directly, but I know Michael, and then Michael knows the person. So I can easily contact Michael, then Michael helps me to get that information. So that's like a simple illustration of that. So that is what this diagram will kind of explain to you. Then you can see that the symbols, but we probably won't go to that. There's a meaning to all these 1 and 0, 1 and so you can have one-to-many relationship, many-to-many relationship. So that's also giving some kind of information. But at the elementary level, it shows you that this table, shippers table, has relationship with others. Now let's go back to our table. Okay, so we've looked at distinct. Another thing you can do, because I mean, all we've been doing to a large extent is kind of exploratory, just checking information of what we have in the database. So you can almost do the same thing for all the table we have here. So let's say we are selecting all from other details. So we have a table here, other details. So I'm selecting everything from there. So if I run this, you can see the order ID, the product ID, the unit price, the quantity, and then the discounts. Now, assuming this is running into several millions, and I just want to see the count. Now, how do I do that? So I can easily count star like that. I can say select count star from. So if I run this, it will show me the total number of records I have in the database. All right. So which is the same information I was seeing when I was looking here, but because I have just one row now, so this will only reflect one row. Now, but the one row is showing us the total count of what we have in the database. So yeah, which is 2,155. Now, another thing we can do is we can check the average. I think we have count also in Excel, so it's almost the same thing, just like the way you have it in Excel. So another thing we have is the average. Now, let's say I want to know the average quantity. Okay, so I can select quantity. So this will list all the quantity I have in the database. Then I can say average, put that in the so you can say AVG is how we call average. I think in Excel you have to write it in full. So in SQL it is called AVG. AVG quantity. So what I'm saying is give me the average of the quantity from the other details table. So if I run that, you can see my average quantity is 23. Now you'd notice something that immediately I ran this, I executed this query. On top of the column name, change to no column name. Now that's because I don't have any column called average quantity in my database. What I have is quantity. So this is almost like a derived column that I've done. Okay. So if you want to change that name to give it a name, what you can do is what we call aliasing. So you can alias this and say as average quantity, like that. Okay, so what I've done is select average quantity, that is calculate the average quantity, then call it average quantity. So I can execute this. So now you see the column name is average quantity. The same way we have other functions. We have the sum. So let me change this to sum. We have the sum, which would sum like all the quantity in other tables. So I will change this to sum quantity. So I can execute that. So if I export that to maybe Excel or something, I do a sum. This is the value I would get. So, you know, of course, as a data analyst, if you are doing some kind of exploratory analysis, so these are the kinds of function you want to use: the sum, the average, and the likes. We have also the minimum, which is here is used as MIN. That's the minimum. So that's, I'll call it minimum quantity. So it means the minimum quantity ever ordered is 1. And if I want to know the what's it called now, the highest or quantity ordered, I can change that to max. Okay, so if I run that, it means the single highest quantity ordered at a time is 130 in this database. Okay, so that's maximum. Now let me just go back to start. So let's see what our, now you can see here that we have order ID, product ID, unit price, quantity, and discount. So let me say I want to know how much is paid for each order. So you have if you remember in Excel, we have star to be multiplication, we have slash to be division, we have plus to be plus. So all of that is also applicable here. So let's say we want to calculate what's it called, the total amount. Now this is showing us the unit price, we have the quantity, and we have the discount. So let's say we want to get that information. So I can easily say order ID, comma. So unit, of course, if I want to get the amounts, the formula would be unit price times quantity minus any discounts. So we have these discounts. Although I don't know if this discount is in percentage now or not, but of course the information that you'd have been given alongside the diagram I showed earlier, you would have some kind of data dictionary, which would also explain more about the database. So yeah, but of course we just treat it as maybe it's an amount, like it could be percentage, it could be anything. So, but there's no way you can know percentage from database unless somebody tells you that it's percentage that is being stored there. So I'll say unit price times quantity, yeah, this will give me the total amount, then minus discount. So for each row now, you are going to get the total amount. So let me run this. So you can see for each row now, you can see the total amount. So I can alias this as, remember our aliasing as total amount or something like that. Now this is the total amount is just as my own discretion. So you can use whatever you want. So if I run this, you can see the order ID and then the total amount. Okay. Now, okay, so that's pretty much about select statement. Now let's take it to the next level. There are times that you want to, okay, let me just select all again. Let me take this back to select all. So we have all our records back. But let's say we want to, okay, maybe it will not make sense with this table. Let's use another table for that. Select all from, let's use customers. Let's select all for customers. I think we've used this before. So let's say we want to see only customers from a certain city, Berlin, for example. So that's like filtering our table now. So we don't want to select all the customers. We want to select only from a particular region. Then we need to introduce what we call the where statement, where, so the column name, city is equal to Berlin. And one good thing about SQL is that it's not case sensitive. It doesn't care about indentation or whatever. So anyhow you write it, so far your syntax is correct, it's going to execute it. So that's one beautiful thing about SQL again. So it's very simple to learn. So what I've done here is I'm selecting the customers, but only where the city is equal to Berlin. Now, this can be a bit fast, but I mean, the recording will be provided. You can go back to it, watch it, and also try your hands on something. So if I run this, you can see I have only one customer from Berlin. Okay. Now, what if I want to exclude Berlin? Okay, or let me say I want to select where it is from Berlin and also some other cities. So let's start from that first. So let me select all customer. So I'm just going to highlight to select everything. So it's going to, it won't include the where statement as at the moment. So let's say we want to include London. So I want to select customer from Berlin and from London. So how I'll do that is still using the where clause. Now I can essentially use something like or city is equal to London. All right. So I need to close that. If there's any error, you see that red thing there. So or city is equal to London. So if I execute this, it will show me customers that are from Berlin, as we can see here, and also customers that are from London, like that. Now, imagine if I have to maybe include 3 or 4 or 5 cities. It won't make sense for me to just keep writing or and all of that. So I can essentially collapse this into, okay, then let me make it complicated so that you understand what I'm doing. So let me just clear this. So you can change that to in. All right. So then you now specify the names of the city you want: Berlin, comma, London. Yeah, like that. So, I mean, you can go on and on with that if you have other cities you want to include. So what I'm saying now is select customers where city is in Berlin and London. Okay. So if I execute this, you can see I'm getting the same results that I got earlier. Now, what if I want to select all customers, but not customer from Berlin or London? How do I do that? Then I can change this to not in. So it will show me every other customers, excluding customers that are from Berlin or London. So yeah, you can run that. Okay, so that is in how you can use your in and not in. And of course, we explained also how with that. What if I want to use 2 or 3 criteria to select my customers? So let's say, for example, now I want to select customers from Mexico Okay, say Mexico. So this will show me customers from Mexico. All right, but I want to include, okay, everybody's actually from, I want to include where the contact title is also. So I want to select customer from Mexico, but also the contact title is owner. All right, so what I'll do is to include another, so I'll be using hand in this case, and contact title is equal to owner. That way. So it will only show me the customer where the two conditions are true. All right. So if I execute that, so you can see I now have customers where the country is Mexico, but also owner as a contact title. So that's how you can kind of combine different columns as and use them as condition. And I can go on and on with this. I can say and postal code is equal to, I'm not sure anybody has the same postal code anyway, so, but let me say equal to 05021. Okay, yeah, so that gives me this. But again, if you want to be specific about maybe it's just one customer you want, it will not make sense to go through all these routes to pick just this customer. If you have the customer ID, you can just use that straight away, where customer ID is this is ANATR, and that will give me that result as well. So yeah, so that's the where condition. So we've looked at and all. Now again, let's select our customer. So I'm just trying to put so many things. Then maybe once is okay, maybe in like 2-3 minutes time we'll stop and take as many questions as we can. I think it should be more of course questions than what I'm doing right now. Okay, so I'm selecting customers. So what if now the database will try to order it in the best way it can, but what if I want a different I want to order it the records in a different way? So I can do selector from customer, order by, so I'm introducing another, okay, so let's make it capital so that's it doesn't matter. Like I said, SQL does not care if it's capital or not. But I mean, the rule is you always try to make your code as clean as possible. So that's why I'm trying to, so that we are used to that. So let's say we want to order by company name. So if I run this, so you can see that, okay, I think that was the ordering he was using initially, but I can twist this around. So the default behavior is in ascending order. I can twist this and say, I want it to be in descending order. So how you do that is DASC. So if I execute this, you can see we now have the company name, upside down. All right, so it's now starting from W, alphabetical order and all of that. So if I remove the DESC, then the default is ascending, or I can also specify it. This is ascending. This is how you specify ascending, ASC, and descending is DASC. So if I run this, so it will go back to what we have before. Now remember, I talked about top 5, where you can select the top 5 records. So let's use that on the order table. It will probably make more sense. So let me select order details. So we have this. So let's combine this with the order by that we've just looked at now. So order by quantity. Order by quantity. I hope I'm not too fast. Okay, so I run this. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, and all of that. So let's say I want to include my top 5 or something. Yeah, top 5. So this will give me the top 5. I mean, counting from the list now, 1 and all of that. So the list quantity here is 1. So it will select like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What if I want to select bottom 5? All I have to do, because I mentioned earlier that we don't have bottom 5. So what I have to do is just change it to DESC. So it kind of turns it upside down, and then you have your top 5 from there. So that's how to achieve bottom 5. So you can see the maximum quantity is 130. So it shows you like top, what's it called, the top 5. Now you will see that we have 130 repeating and all of that. What if I just want to see the top 5? Then we can almost combine. We've looked at distinct, so we can combine that again and say distinct, distinct quantity. Okay, I think I can include top 5 with distinct. Okay, I don't want to go into, there's a way I can manage that actually. So I have my distinct record now, but I don't want to go into common table expression and stuff. It will probably be, so there's a way I can now get my top 5 from here, because you see that when I include top 5 with this query, it kind of complains. So it means top 5 cannot go with distinct. Okay, but if I want to do that, then I need to introduce another thing, and I don't want to make this too complicated. But yeah, that's how you kind of achieve that. So we have distinct instead of repeating quantities. Now we now have one of each record. So I think we can take question now. We have about 15 minutes and there's still so much. So I don't know. So maybe we can take question, and that would help us to know which direction to go in. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So there's a question from someone from Olagbaju. So he's saying, why is order detail in square brackets? Is it a relational table? Where is order? You see in this your query showing, right? Yeah. So he's asking why is that in square bracket?
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's a very good observation. Okay, so one thing is SQL does not like space. If there's anything that's kind of makes SQL angry, it's probably space. So, and you see the way they've kind of named the tables here. So in this case, we have other details that is space inside. Now, if I remove this bracket, you can see that it's almost going anywhere. So it does not recognize the two words together. So just to manage that, that's why he's adding the bracket to it. So he knows that, okay, the two words are together. So that's like a table name, right? Now, in other ones that I've done, where I did select from others, I can as well make it this way. I mean, this is actually how the column names are. So it's because I don't have any quantity in other table. So that's why you're seeing this error here. But you can see if I run this, let's say, for example, now I run all from others. Let me just comment this out. So if I run, this will still work. So if you write, so one thing about SQL is it allows you to do whatever you want. So if you take out this, it still recognizes it. So it's not really harsh on you, however you want to write it. But the only thing is, once you now have space or some funny characters in your what's it called, your column names and table names, then it's good you put that bracket so that it will now really understand that, okay, that's the complete table name. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, okay. So another question from Bello, it says, how can we select multiple columns from different tables at the same time?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good one. Okay, so okay, let's go back to this diagram. I'll just quickly show us so that then we use that too. So remember I asked you the other time, employee ID, then we have which table? I think territories employee ID. So let's say we want to select territories with the employee ID, but of course we want to know the name alongside with it. So how do you do that? So let me select employees. Okay, now I really don't want to get into the concept, but I'll just explain just for the purpose of this question. But I mean, I'm sure more questions will come after that. So I can now join the tables together. For you to be able to select from two tables, then you need to join them. So how do you join? So I'll say, let me alias this. So the same way we alias our what's it called? The columns. We can also alias table. And the reason why I'm doing this is so that I will not have to be writing employees table every time I have to refer to it. You get? So that's why I'm aliasing this. So yeah, like that way. Then I will now use join. So there are several types of joins, but today we'll just talk about inner join. So inner join employees territories table. Okay, now let me call this EMPT. All right. Now, what is that? For you to join two tables, there must be at least a column that is kind of common to both of them. Okay. All right. So if you want to join, how do you now specify the column that is common to both of them? You use the on keyword. Okay. So I'll now say on EMP dot, okay, the column that is common to both of them, which is employee ID. Remember the diagram? The diagram has kind of shown us. So you can see those ones that have like, what's it called? Keys in front of them. That's the primary key you get. So it's not necessarily that that's the only thing you can use to link them. There could be others, but in this case is the employee ID. So we can use that to link. Say where, so it's almost like saying link them using employee ID from the employees table, okay, and employee EMPT, which is the name I gave the other one, dot employee ID. Now, in the other table, sometimes you can have it as a different name. So you have to specify it. It's not a must that the two columns must bear the same name, right? So it can be employee ID here, and here it can be EID. So that's why you always have to follow whatever your table, the information on your table. So that way, now, if I run this, what's the query would do is to combine what's it called, all the columns from employees table and employee territory. So, but I can be more specific so that it's not like, so let me just say employee ID. I want the last name. I think we have like last name there. Yeah, we have first name, and then the information from territories. I think we have territory ID. Yeah, so we want to add territory ID to that, territory ID. So now you'd notice again that there's some kind of underlining, like an error kind of. So if you read the error message, it's saying the ambiguous column name. Now that's because we have employee ID in employee table and also employee ID in employee territories. So it's not able to confirm which table, which employee ID are you referring to. Okay, so to clear that doubt, I will now specify which table is going to pick it from. The fact is, because we are using inner join, right? Anywhere you specify, the employee ID will actually be the same because that's what we are using to connect them anyway. So, but other columns that are unique, that is, assuming I have a first name in employees territory, then I will need to specify that as well. Also, if I specify, it's not a problem. It's not going to complain, right? But you can do away with it. So if I run this, you can see I now have employee ID, last name, first name coming from employees table, and then the territory ID coming from employees table. So that's actually how you get information from two or more tables. I can go on and on with this, but I just tried to use this to what's it called, to explain the question, but this is not really how I'd like to treat or teach inner join. Join is a bit complex, I know, but there's a way I always try to approach it. But for the sake of this question, that's why I just try to. So you can use your inner join. There are other types. There is left join, there's right join, but it depends on the situation that will determine which one you would use. Okay, but this, simply putting that, you can use your inner join that way. Yeah. I hope the question is answered.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking through. So this is, well, let me read the way the person has written it. So Chinelo is saying, I'm new in this group. Chinelo, we saw you last week, so you're not all that new. Is there any material I can find to read and have basic understanding of SQL? So she's asking that, do you have any recommendation of resource, maybe book or something she can read to get up to stream with the basics of SQL.
Okay. Yeah, cool. There are several resources online, but I think I'll recommend W3 School. I think they have, and as you're doing the practice, you have like some practice question also to, understand it better. So I think I'll recommend W3 School. If you can look that up, or I will look for the link to that and try to drop it in the chat later on. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I don't know. I know most of the Chinelos I know. I kind of started assuming that they are all women. So he says I'm a man. Oh. Okay, so thanks. You said W3 schools. I'll just write it for him to
Yeah.
see W3 schools. I've seen them a lot when I search for HTML stuff, but I think, like you
Yeah.
said, they also do a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Okay. And any more questions? And if you want to raise your hand, if you want us to give you, if you want me to give you ability to unmute and speak, just if you raise your hand, I will notice and then I will make you a presenter and you can speak. But any other questions, any today we are very fortunate to have an SQL guru. So take advantage of it. Ask him as many questions as you have, so that you get, and he's very good at explaining in a very easy to understand way, all the ways he's explained all these things. When I was learning them, nobody explained them to me this simple way. He has a very relatable way of explaining things. So please take advantage. Okay, so I have three questions. Two are our standard questions, which we always ask after everybody has asked theirs. So I'll give people opportunity to ask. But the one is someone is asking that can you have your contact? So I'm going to answer that the easiest way is to just connect to you on LinkedIn. Then he can
Just
ask you any other questions directly that way. I don't want to make it look like we box you into sharing your contact directly here. But if you connect with him here, you can ask him anything. If you even want to ask his house address, ask him.
no
Ask
problem.
him.
I'll be happy to host you.
But it will not be proper for me to tell him to send his contact or anything to you via this chat. Okay. So, oh, I see new questions have come up. Can you? Okay. Okay, we've talked about your contact. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. I've shared his LinkedIn. He's also on GitHub, on Medium. I think once you connect with him on LinkedIn, you will see all
Yeah.
the other resources he has that you can learn through. And then someone is asking, so Jennifer is asking, can you show group example from multiple tables? Show group example. Does she mean group by? Do you get what she's asking? Are you able to see this question?
Um, maybe I don't know.
Oh, the
Let me
person said
see.
yes,
Can you
group
show?
by. Yeah, okay.
Oh,
So let me
group
read
by.
it.
Oh,
Say, can
okay,
you show
okay,
a
okay,
group by
okay.
example from multiple
Oh, okay,
tables?
okay,
Okay.
okay. Okay, yeah, perfect, perfect. Okay, so I think we can essentially use the query or still on the screen. I hope we are not okay, but this does not really have very good information to use that. Okay, let me go back to the other table. So I'm just gonna clear this up. So let's select all from others details. Yeah, perfect. Remember this table where we saw like details of orders, where we have the order ID, product ID, unit price, and all of that. So if you want to think of what this table is showing you, it's almost like you have you went to the store, you buy different things, maybe groceries or whatever, a lot of them. And on your receipt, it will kind of show you on the same order, right? It will show you what's it called? Maybe you bought biscuits, milk, and all of that. So you can see that the order ID is repeating. Okay, I mean for some of them. So I can tell that this order ID 123 is for the same order, while 249 is also for another order that way. So, and of course, you remember we did unit price times quantity minus discount to get the total amount. Now, that's not totally the end of it. Okay, it would be misleading. It's almost like saying you have an order, so the person bought milk, bonfita, biscuits, and all of that, and you're only summing the amount for milk you get. So that's where a very good example where you can see group by. So how do you get that? So I want to get basically for each order, I want to see the total amount the person paid. Okay. So first thing I need to do is sum. Okay, let me see. Order ID. Yep, order ID, right? Then sum, what's it called now? The unit price. I'm not sure if that makes sense. So let's use that again. Unit price times quantity, which I think we did it this earlier, so we should probably still right. I can see many questions coming in again, but let's try and so minus discount, okay? So that is for each. Let me run this. Okay, so that is for, you can see the order ID is still repeating. So this will probably be for milk. This will be for bonfita. Now to get what's it called? I will need to sum everything up. That's summing up, and we did sum. Now, because I'm summing up, I'll need to introduce what we call the group by. So the only thing I have to do here is just, what's it called? Add another group, which is the group by keyword. I'll now specify what I want to group it by. So I will say order ID like that. So when I do this, what this database will interpret is like to sum 168 plus 98 for the order ID, such that you now have only one order ID than the sum of everything. So I can execute this. Then you can see that, okay, for this order ID, this is what's it called? The total. So let me alias this so that it's clear. Total amount. So this is actually the total amount. I just didn't want to go to that point, so that I don't end up confusing people. But it's good the question is coming up. So if I run this, so this is the actual total amount per order in the table. I don't know if that answers the question.
I'm looking through to see. I think yes, she said yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'm trying to go through. I'm answering some are more about recording. So I've answered the person that asked about recording. Someone said that this is his first session and he's asking how many he has missed. So I told him that we hold every Sunday. We started 2020 like 3 years ago. He has missed over 120 sessions. So I don't know where we'll start from. But I've shared the link of where we can watch the recordings. Then someone said he's sending me LinkedIn. Okay, I think I've answered. Okay, so Ima is directing this to you, so I'm going to read it. I've not read it before, but I'll just read it out the way he's written it. It says, "Hi, Ife, how can one get an internship to gather work experience as a new learner? Because most vacancies out there ask for some level of experience, including expertise in more technical areas like programming language, e.g. Python, R." I hope I didn't read it too fast.
Yeah, I got the question. Okay, well, to answer that, I would say you'll be surprised at, I remember when I started also, I actually didn't start at this level. I started as application support in one IT firm in Nigeria then. So, but you'll be surprised at how what you'd come, what you get if you actually approach these companies and ask them for internship roles. Sometimes you just kind of think, okay, maybe there should be some kind of advance or whatever. So if you know you don't have the skill set, don't be, you can reach out, and even LinkedIn is even there. You can send cold mail that you want to start as an internship. So, for someone like me, I started as as an I didn't even know anything. So the company probably took a gamble taking me in, and I mean it kind of paid off. So I got to like really top level before I left. So I mean we should try to use this opportunity. I mean you can send mails to companies, you can reach out to HR. Or you know you don't have the skill, so it's even easier because they know they are not spending so much. I mean you can even, I'm not saying that you should do that, but I mean, if you have the ability to, you can even offer to internship for free. You get, I know most companies will not, nobody will refuse that. So, I mean, that those are ways you can do it. Then, as you are doing that as well, try to also train yourself, build maybe some kind of portfolio so that when you are going for interview, even if it's not like internship, you have something to show that okay, I've been doing this, I've been doing this. I think it probably would help. But yeah, maybe Michael can also help me more on that aspect. But I mean, that's the little I can say about that.
I completely agree, sir. So nothing to add. There's one more question from someone. I think I missed it when I was reading to you. So let me quickly go there. Okay, so his question is, so Bello is asking, as a junior data analyst that is new to the role of analyzing data, is it possible for database admins to give comprehensive data dictionary to work with?
Okay, yeah. I'm smiling because the answer is kind of funny. Now, ideally, you should have a data dictionary. You should have these ERD diagrams, but I know it's not always there. Sometimes they just dump data at you, and then you almost like swimming through the this thing. Ideal situation is that you should have all of these things so that you understand the data, even from the documentation and all of that. But if it's not available, that doesn't mean you will not work. Which is why, of course, you cannot take your time to understand the data. You know, it's almost like extra work, yeah, but I mean, it gets the job done, so why not? So you can look at the data, do your select statement, some kind of exploratory, which is what we start where we started from. Do your select, see the what's it called? The columns and all of that. And I think SQL kind of helps as well. I mean, that's if the database was built very well. You can see relationship. I can't remember where you can get. There's a place you can go here that you see the relationship. So you see how the database kind of connects to each other. I think, I'm not really sure where it is again, but I know there's a place you can see relationships. Okay, I think it's somewhere around there. Not really sure where again. So you can see like if it has relationship with other tables. So that's a way to also understand the database that you want to work with. But like I said, ideally, yes, you should have those documents. But if it's not available, yeah, you can find your way around. Just do your exploratory and understand the kind of information you have in your database. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. I hope you have 5 minutes. So because I know sometimes some speakers have other things they need to do almost immediately. Do you have 5 minutes so
Yeah,
that
we
we
can
just
take 5 minutes just trying to do something.
okay,
For
okay,
5 minutes, yeah,
great.
that's fine. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks. All right. So the last set of two questions we ask all our special guests. Question number, maybe I'll ask them together so that way I don't, overstay the 5 minutes grace you've given us. So question one is we want to hear your own journey, how you started, how you got to this level. I know you've hinted a bit, but it will be very, we find it a lot more inspiring when people tell us from their zero, how they went from zero to where they are now. So that's one. Then number two is also your advice for anybody who is starting out now, someone who is zero at SQL, zero at this data analysis space, and is going to pursue a career where SQL is going to play a very key role, in that career, how the person should go about it in a proper, well-guided way. So those are the two questions.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so maybe to answer that, in terms of my journey, I think I kind of hinted a bit on that. But how I started was, I mean, I just finished NYSC or something like that. So A friend told me about this company, IT company in Lagos. So I submitted CV. They called me in for. The fact is, yeah, when I was in school, I tried to do some training on maybe programming and all of that. But I mean, coming out of school, Nigeria's system and all of that, I'm not even sure. I just know that if you want to select from a database, it is the less star. That's probably the what I know. But when I joined the company, of course, they took me and allowed me to start. And it was a company that, is either you go hard or you go home. So I was under that kind of pressure. I was attending to customers in like 2, 3 months. So it gave me that push to start. I remember I would go online, download different PDFs on. There was this book, I still remember the name. SQL for Dummy or something like that. Yeah. So that was actually the book I used to start my SQL journey. So I started reading that, practicing, and all of that. And, I kind of went up the rank. Like I said, I started out as an application support, but as time goes on, I added so many things. And, so it kind of built this, almost you have this it makes you tough. I mean, it's not probably maybe the best option to grown people, but that was where I found myself and it helped me. So, but for someone that is just coming in, I would say my advice would probably be don't relent. And I know I say a lot of things online. People think IT is, just call yourself IT and then you just start like that. It's difficult. I won't lie. It's difficult. It takes time. It takes sometimes you even feel like giving up, but just don't give up. Just keep pushing. Any material you can check online. I've joined several sessions. In fact, it was in my quest for knowledge that I came about this group, and I think I've joined several sessions as well here. So there's almost when I'm on YouTube, I'm watching different videos and all of that. So that's how you kind of build yourself because I'm not sure there's any IT line that has like a structure that says, okay, you start from here, you go here. It's just people that are trying to come up with different things. And it's almost self-taught. Any IT this that I've seen, maybe a programmer or whatever, it's almost self-taught. And there are materials online that you can always check. But the main thing is constant practice and don't be afraid to reach out to these companies, especially if you're in Lagos for internship and opportunities and all like that. Yeah, I hope I'm able to answer the question right.
Thanks. Okay, but did you tell her? Oh, okay, you told us about how you started. I was about to ask. I hope you didn't forget that part. Okay, yes, I remember. So I think with that we have come to the end. I'm just trying to answer some questions, but I think we are done. The only thing I will post before I end the meeting is simply that there's a usual thing we post on every session on, let me just get it, a session review, like people should just uh, re- give feedback on our presenter and if anybody wants to get a speaking slot. So that's it. Let me just grab it and post it and then we end the session. But thank you very, very much for the knowledge share. And to be sincere, you are extremely good at this thing. You are, if not that, we've talked on LinkedIn. I would think maybe you're a trainer full time, like you do training full time. Yes, the way you're able to carry people along, explain all these terms in ways that people can relate to, put a context that's relatable. It's unusual. It's not something that we come across a lot. So it's a rare combination of the knowledge, expertise, and still able to teach it to people who are completely new to the concept. So thank you very, very much. To everybody who has joined today's session, I will say also a big thank you for being part of today's session. And someone has asked, we always run sessions every Sundays. It might not be an ideal day for most people, but so far that has been the best compromise we've had. And so the recording will be on LinkedIn. Let me just share the link again. The recording will be on on YouTube, not LinkedIn, on YouTube by tomorrow. My colleague who does the editing and and production. Let me just paste everything. I'm using too many screens, so I'm getting myself confused. So, okay. And so with that, I think I've given all the information we need. Help us with the feedback. Help us with if you have someone you want us to bring on this series, or you yourself have something you want to teach us. We are a very safe place, both for participants and for presenters. So as long as there's value exchange, we are learning something new, we are learning something relevant, we are not going to be demanding that you probably pick a topic that is fitting some very funny criteria, as long as it gives value. And today we've seen that we are in an Excel community, but we are learning SQL. It's relevant, and see a lot of you have showed up at some point. We were at 24, 25, which is a very good number. So I'll say thank you once again to our special guest and to everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday ahead. If you're interested in Power BI, we have a presenter coming up in about 45 minutes. I've shared the link. You can also be part of it. You can RSVP and see the details. So thank you to everyone. Have a wonderful week ahead, and bye. And thanks again to Ife. We hope to have you once again, in future.
Yeah, I'd
It'll be
love
nice.
to. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay,
All
so
right. Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.
Yes.